wanted to speak a little bit about what it means to be addicted, and if this rings through to only one person, it's worth this video. I begin this video with my favorite psalm, which is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, and he leadeth me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies, and thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. What does it mean to be an addict in the society that we live in now? Basically, most of the stories of all addicts are probably the same. They were introduced or seduced, thinking or being convinced by someone that if you try this once, you cannot get addicted, which is both true and false. It is true and false because you cannot be addicted, you cannot be chemically dependent if you do it once. But what happens if you do it once is that the natural barrier, the psychological barrier that everybody has of trying dangerous things is eroded, and once it is eroded, it does not come back. So you have destroyed this natural protection in your psyche, and it does not come back. Irrelevant of what you do, it will never be there again. And what that means is that if you have lost that natural barrier, if there is a second possibility or chance to try it a second time, you will, most probably. And if there's a third chance, you will. And if there's a fourth chance, you will. And this, until this is a full-blown addiction, a chemical dependence in your body, it can take a decade if you're careful. But like the Bible says, once you open that door to sin, it escalates and it's progressive, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And of course there's denial first, that I have no problem with that, I can stop whenever I want. And this may be true for a few years or so, if you don't take it every day or take it once a month or something like that, then there might be a chance that you can say, okay, enough is enough. But it's very, very, very seldom that someone has the willpower to do that. Usually people get just hooked, and there's no way to go back. But if you're like 15 years old or 16 or maybe 21 or 25 years old, you don't understand that. And that's how it starts for most people. That's how it started for me. And yeah, what does it mean to be an opiate addict? It means that at some point you cannot sustain getting that stuff on the streets or wherever, and you have to go to the doctor, and the doctor is usually very happy to put you into a substitution program. At least that's how it is in Austria and Germany. Basically the intention behind the doctors is to work with law enforcement and to minimize addiction related crime, which can be a huge problem because people who are addicted sometimes commit huge amounts of crimes, like breaking into pharmacies and so on. And so the doctors, at least back then, were massively encouraged by police. At least that's my opinion. I'm pretty sure that's true. But so they take you, if you're 16 years old, they take you into substitution, and they tell you that it's just a reduction method, and within a few months or weeks you'll be healthy again and good to go. But the truth is that most people never get off that stuff. And there's also always an official version of the truth and the real truth. And the official version that was told to me was that 1/3 gets off of it at some point, and 1/3 stays on it forever, and 1/3 dies from complications of taking these disgusting substances. Now, addiction is not just a biological problem, disease, and psychological disease. It's also a spiritual disease, and it's a sociological disease. If you are marked as a substitution patient, you are treated like a modern day leper, basically. It was worse. It's getting a little bit more understanding. Now, but most of the time it was very difficult to just fulfill the requirements that you have to fulfill to get your medications, which is in every 4 weeks you need a special how do you call it, prescription, which is basically treated like it's plutonium or something. You have to have a special receipt with a special marker on it, which guarantees that you cannot fake it. But faking it is impossible anyhow, because everything is digitalized, so it's basically chicane. So they basically throw as many stones in your way as possible. At least that was my impression for the first 10 years or longer, that they do everything in their power to make you wait as long as possible. And so you have to get this receipt, then you have to, within this you have to do this every 4 weeks, or every 28 days you have to get your receipt. You have to bring a negative urine test. You have to visit a psychologist and a psychiatrist, in my case. If you have a car, a driver's license, you have to do that too. So that's at least 5 visits to doctors, usually per month or per 28 days. And this goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. In the beginning, when this all started, it was so that you had to drive an hour or so to a certain hospital. You have to be there latest at 7 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Saturday. If you're later, it could be that you wait until the afternoon, which happened to me many times. So you have to be there at 7 o'clock, even if it's Christmas, it doesn't matter. And if you're there early enough, you may be under the first 15 or 20 persons to swallow their medications, their medication under supervision with mouth control, which is humiliating. And this, I had to do this for 4 or 5 years. I would say 5 or more years. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And this alone was hugely traumatic for me. It would be for everyone. I mean, that's crazy making, that's insanity to force a person to do that. And if you don't take your medication, you have withdrawal symptoms that are so severe that you could die from them. Statistically, 8% of opiate addicts die from withdrawal in a cold turkey withdrawal in a hospital. 8%. With alcohol, it's 18%. If you're a real alcoholic, which means that you already experienced delirium tremens, and that's nearly every 5th person that dies from alcohol, who tries to get off it. So if you think that fooling around with drugs is a good idea, then I can definitely tell you that it's not a good idea. And many, if not most, of my former friends are dead, or amputees, or pretty much damaged, which is very sad, because I don't think that anyone deserves something like that, irrespective of what you have done. I don't think that when you're 16 or 15 that you have the slightest idea of what that entails and what that will take away from you and from your loved ones. And the only thing that that really gave me the chance to get out of there was that I, or through pure being at the end of my rope, crying out to God and beginning to read the Bible and beginning to study it and beginning to understand that what we believe and what our culture tells us is not truthful, and Christianity is pretty much laughed about, but there are many testimonies, even near-death testimonies of people who saw the other side and so on. So in my mind, that's what really saved me. And since that, there were so many synchronicities in my life that were so improbable that you can't use another word but miracle for the things that slowly, very slowly, but surely pulled me out of this hell on earth that I created for myself. Since then, I mean, basically, when I was 28, I was basically, there was no hope anymore. There was not a sliver of hope left in me. And where there was once light, there was only darkness. And basically, I was like the tail of a snake. I was dragged around by circumstances that I could not understand and that I could not influence whatever I did, even through meditation, even through years of meditation and yoga and spiritual disciplines. It did not help me. It did a lot of things, but it did not make me into a better person. It did not change this darkness inside me. In a way, maybe it even fueled the darkness inside me. And since I learned a lot about occultism and how do you call it, our hermetics, I learned that words are very powerful. And I had one friend that died a short time ago, and he repeatedly told me that in his words, he said it in German, but he basically said, I have already accepted that I'm a junkie. And I never said that. I always answered that I will never stop seeking a way out, because things like that, you can say them very lightly, but if you're literally laying on your deathbed and you know that you're going to die, then suddenly all the things that you've done you see them in a different light. And the Lord told me on that day that someday in the future you will look back on this day and you will see that this day was the worst and best day of your life. And it's true. And everything else he told me is also true. And many things have come to pass. Other things hopefully will come to pass. And when you're lying on your deathbed and you're thinking back on your life and you see that you have done nothing but destroy yourself and other people and live the life of a hedonist, the shame and the guilt that you experience is so overwhelming that thankfully I began to pray, because this one prayer set everything in motion 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago, something like that. And I'm still learning a lot, because the Bible is not easy reading. It's very deep and layered. It has many different Verständnisebenen, different levels of interpretation, and so and the first thing that the Lord showed me was a preacher called Derek Prince, and he talked about spiritual warfare and what that means, and that this is very real, although many people don't believe in that anymore. Even I think pastors, if you ask them, I don't think that they know a lot about spiritual warfare. And just as an example, this is a short excerpt of where he preached about on the breaking of curses, and he said that there are 7 basic blessings and 7 basic curses, and curses can be generational, so you don't have to sin to be cursed. This can go back into the 5th or 7th generation into the past, which is coincidentally exactly the same thing that epigeneticists say how long behavior is passed down over generations, and they say that it is passed down up to 7 generations, just like the Bible says. So there are 7 basic blessings, which are exaltation, which means being lifted up, reproductiveness or fruitfulness, health, prosperity, victory, being the head and not the tail, and being above circumstances and not beneath circumstances. And the 7 basic curses is basically the opposite. It's humiliation, barrenness, which means unfruitfulness, sickness, poverty, defeat. You're the tail and not the head, and you're beneath and not above. And that's just a small excerpt of this preaching that he did about curses. It's a 2-hour video, and at the end he gives prayers to lift those curses off of you. And so if anyone is interested in learning about spiritual warfare, which is very important in my opinion, Derek Prince would be a good place to start. I think he has died a few years ago. So I end this video with the first psalm that was really important for me, which gave me the clarity of mind to really distance me from every bad influence that I could think of, even television for entertainment purposes. I only watch documentaries mostly, but I don't really watch television for entertainment purposes anymore. Psalm number 1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor stands in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly will perish. Thank you.